So I slept out here in my backyard in the hammock last night because I knew it was going to get down a little bit colder than what it has been lately. Right now, it's a little after 7 o'clock, and it is 36 degrees. So it got down around 30, low 30s last night, and I wanted to test out this this underquilt that I won. I normally don't win things, but actually at HangCon, I bought a bunch of raffle tickets, and I ended up winning a Loco Libre Ghost Pepper 20 degree top quilt. So last night, since it was going to be a little bit chilly, I decided I would come out here and try and get a good test with it. And I gotta say, it lived up to everything I expected. It is toasty warm, 30 degrees. A lot of people say about 10 degrees above the temp of the quilt is about the limit that they're comfy in. Never once did I feel I was pushing any limits with this thing. It was nice and warm. So anyway, I just wanted to get out here, get a good test. Right now I've got a little breakfast from the hammock going on. I've got the Medaglia Doro sitting here waiting for the water to heat up, and it's getting close. So I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy that, and then we'll get into a little more on this thing. But I was nice and toasty warm all night long. Of course, I do have a 0 degree underquilt on underneath me, so that definitely helps. But on top, I stayed toasty warm all night long. You see my breath. But anyway, get this going, and I'll come back and talk with you in a little bit. So I wanted to give this top quilt a pretty good test, being that we're out here. It's only going to be down into about the low 30s. I did not put the top cover on this hammock. Now I'm in the Dutch Chameleon again, and it has the top cover or the bug net option, but I opted, there's no bugs out right now. I opted to go with nothing on top at all, just topless, just an open netless hammock. And I was fine, but adding that on would probably give me another 5 degrees inside of warmth that it kind of traps inside. It's not quite as much as a sock would give you, because it doesn't wrap all the way around. It doesn't block the wind off of the bottom. And speaking of wind, there was quite a bit of wind last night. It was really windy. You can still see it's still a little breezy this morning, but nothing like it was last night. I'm sure there were some gusts that were up in the 40 range, and sustained was in the high teens, I'd say, with lots of gusts. So I ended up having to tighten the tarp down a little bit, because it was a little bit noisy. I had a little too loose to begin with, but slept really good, except for my dog was out here in the backyard with me, and she kept coming over and putting her nose on me and waking me up. But other than that, it was a great night in the hammock. And this top quilt performed great. Wind is coming in here. I can feel it right now. My hands are frozen, and I'm toasty warm under this thing. The wind hits it, and I don't feel any wind penetrating it. It's got enough loft, and the way that George does the baffles in these things, it keeps the down where it should be after you go ahead and fluff it up. The down doesn't really shift around because of the chevron pattern, which we'll go ahead and take a look at some point in a little bit more detail. But for a 20 degree, it's got plenty of loft, no cold spots, no spots where there's sewn through seams or anything like that that you have to worry about. So we'll take a really nice close look at this thing, but so far I'm pretty happy with it, especially since it was a free prize from a giveaway raffle. So that's even better. The one thing that holds a lot of people back from some of these cottage vendors are the lead times on some items, and being able to get something and immediately be able to test it because you want it. That's pretty awesome. So we'll get more into it. One of the nice advantages of doing a test like this in the backyard is that I can just kind of relax. I don't have to get up. I don't have to go hit the trail and do any hiking. I can just enjoy the warmth that this thing's providing me. So I'm just going to chill for a little while. Put a little back up here. Snuggle in here. It's nice. Welcome to Spiguyver Backpacking. I'm Mark, and today I've got another gear review for you. This time, it's a Topquilt made by Loco Libre gear. I had the opportunity to actually speak with the owner and inventor of the Loco Libre gear line, George Carr, while I was down at HangCon 17 down in Florida a couple of weeks ago. George is a really cool guy. What actually got us together to talk was he is the inventor of the Gramwini Pro. He used to make it a long time ago and then let Sam from Batch Stoves start making it. And so when I did the review on it, he contacted me and we started talking. Anyway, we got together, had a good conversation, a good chat about innovation and the way that things are going and some of the ideas that he had for not only his current gear, the Loco Libre quilts, but some of the future stuff and some of the direction that things are headed. He's taken some chances, and I think, in my opinion, it has paid off for him. So what I have today is a Topquilt. This is the Ghost Pepper 20 degree Topquilt. It is woodland camo on the outside, burnt orange on the inside. It's 900 fill power down, and it has the really cool chevron baffle design that George has come up with for these quilts. Now I will say I did not purchase this, but it wasn't given to me by George for a review. The way that I actually came to acquire this Topquilt was for HangCon. I purchased a bunch of raffle tickets, and I happened to be the lucky winner of this quilt through the raffle at HangCon. So that's how I came to acquire this one. Not the colors I would have chosen. Most of the time I don't go for the camo stuff, but when you're getting something out of a raffle that's a $270 piece of equipment for the price of your raffle tickets, you don't really complain too much about the color scheme. And really, does the color affect the functionality? Absolutely not in the slightest. So let's go ahead and take a close look at this thing and talk about some of the features of the Loco Libre gear. Ghost Pepper 20 degree Topquilt. You can see that this one is pretty much a straight taper. Now, George does offer 3 different tapers. He offers no taper, so the top up here and the bottom down here are the same lengths. For this one, it's actually, or widths, not lengths. This one is actually a 5-inch taper, so it's 5 inches shorter on the foot end than it is up at the head end. He also offers no taper and a 10-inch taper. Now the 10-inch taper is going to give you more of a mummy bag feel when it's all put together. So this is the 20 degree. It does have at the head end a snap that is pressed in. It has a draw cord that is sewn with the button hole there to cinch around your head. So you can put it around your neck when it's really cold and cinch it down so that it's not going to move. At the foot end, you can opt for a few different designs. This one has 5 snaps that run down the length of it, and then a second cinch with a buttonhole that cinches to create the footbox. Now you can get a sewn footbox, or you can go with even one step further and get an insulated footbox called the Hot Box, which just takes it a step further and puts added insulation into the foot end. So those that are using the 3/4 length quilts and who sleep cold can really benefit from that. Now the one really unique design on this, and it's harder to see on this side, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it over onto the burnt orange side. Here you can really get a good look at those chevron baffles. And those chevron baffles really are effective. Now, you may think it's just a design choice that looks cool,
But really what it does is when you have straight baffles, it's easy for shifting down to slide back and forth. With these chevron patterns, it actually creates almost like a traffic jam of the down so that it can't shift and settle to one spot. So where you have it fluffed when you go to bed is where it's going to end up when you wake up. So it keeps you, I think it keeps you more symmetrically warm throughout the night, consistently warm, that it's not going to shift and create any spots with a low amount of down. Now I have taken the time to really take a look at this and go through all of the stitching to see, are there any places where there's loose stitching or it's bunched up fabric. And really, throughout, it looks really good. The quality is there. It doesn't, looking through to see, the fill, are there any spots that look a little bit more bare than others? And all the baffles seem to be really, really filled equally all the way down through. And it's great workmanship. All of the cottage vendors that I have dealt with, well, for the most part, all of the ones that have a good reputation on hammockforums.net or that you hear about on White Blaze or Hiking Light, all of them seem to have great workmanship. And I think that's one of the things that's kept them going and kept them alive. There are some other small cottage ones out there that have come and gone, and a lot of times that's because the quality just isn't there, and so they're having to rework things over and over. They don't get a good, satisfied customer base that's willing to put their name out there and keep coming back for more and more. I've tried out several different companies, and there have been some that just don't work out, and so they kind of disappear from the marketplace. But I think that George and Loco Libre have proven, and they've got the great following now, that they're in it for the long haul. And I think that you're going to be surprised with some of the stuff that's coming up from Loco Libre. I mean, the innovative part, these baffles, the chevron baffles, some of the underquilts, the Carolina Reaper underquilt that George makes, it's got a much different design than anything out there on the market currently. There are other companies that are out there being innovative and doing different things. And they're the ones that are going to continue to push this industry in the right direction and give the customer, the consumer, really what they're looking for and what they need to get lighter, to get warmer, and to keep things going in the right direction. So all of the quilts that George sells that come from Loco Libre come with a cotton stuff sack or storage sack and a nylon stuff sack. I personally don't use the stuff sacks. I stuff my quilts down into the bottom of my backpack, and that's where they sit. I find that using stuff sacks actually takes up more room inside of a backpack. Anything that you can just shove in there takes up those voids. So if you're using a bunch of stuff sacks, it's kind of like putting some blocks together. If they aren't fit perfectly together, there's going to be a lot of unused space. But if you can just stuff stuff in there, it takes up all that void. So that's how I pack. Now, the stuff sack is pretty big. I mean, it's a 20-degree quilt, but when it's in here, it's definitely not compressed in here. You could probably go, I'd say, 2/3 to half the size of this to stuff this if you really wanted to compress it down and make use of all the room that you have. That said, that stuff sack comes in at 9/10 of an ounce. So by not using it, you're taking another ounce off of what you're carrying with you out on the trail in your backpack. So let's talk some numbers. The size, just check my notes here. Okay, so the size of this, it's 52 inches at the head end, width-wise, 75 inches long for the regular, which this is, and then because it has the taper, it should be 47 inches. Mine actually comes in at about 48 to 49 inches, so it has a little less than a 5-inch taper on mine. It's more like a 3 to 4-inch taper, which is fine with me. I like the bigger footbox, a little bit more room to move your feet around. Talking about weight, so this is listed at 18.9 on the site. Mine actually comes in at 18.8. So just about dead on what he says, and actually a little under, which doesn't happen often with vendors. Usually they're pretty optimistic when they put their numbers out there, but this one seems to be dead on. I went and measured the loft. So there's an equation out there to figure out the temperature rating of a bag, and it is 70 minus 20 times the inches in loft. So you would expect a 20-degree quilt to be 2.5 inches of loft. I measured this at several locations, and it consistently came up at about 3 inches. Now, if you do the math on 3 inches of loft, that gives you about a 10-degree bag. I used this bag down to the low 30s just the other night, and I've got to say, it definitely had more in it than the low 30s. At no point was I even slightly cool, and in fact, there were times that I woke up a little bit clammy because I was sweating a little bit and had to vent a little bit more. So I know that it's at least going to be good down into the 20s, but I will continue to get out there and do some testing with it and see just how low it will go. Preferably here where I can get out of the hammock and go into the house when I determine it's a little too cold. But given the loft that it's showing with that 900 fill power right now, it does seem that it should be able to go down at least into the teens. So we'll give that a shot, see how that works out. Current lead time for a ghost pepper from Loco Libre gear is in about the 14-week range, which is a pretty good time commitment. So you've got to anticipate your needs before you need them. Otherwise, you're going to have to go with someone with either a shorter lead time or that has them in stock. So Beekeeper and I were talking at HangCon, and we actually talked with George a little bit about this, that that's how a lot of people get into hammocking. They go with the Jacks Are Better, the Enlightened equipment, those that are there in stock, ready for them. And then once they get an initial kit going and they start realizing the quality of some of these cottage vendors out there, then they start putting in the orders for the really good gear to really lighten their load and customize their kit a little bit. So I've actually been so impressed with this one already that I've already reached out to George and ordered another quilt. Now, knowing that there is a lead time associated with that, I went ahead and called him, talked with him, and got that all set up. So I actually have a very lightweight summer kit coming. Now, the fabrics of this, the outer is an Argon 90, the inner is an Argon 67, and you can opt for some lighter options. So, for example, on my summer weight one that I'm getting from him, I'm going 67 in and out, and that drops about another ounce to an ounce and a half off of the fabric. I think it's actually like 1.35 ounces that gets dropped off by going with 67 inside and out. Now, that can give you the option to get a long or to get one with an extra ounce of stuffing in it, of down in it, at the same weight as a regular one. So things to think about. You do have to be a little bit more careful with it, but my quilts aren't usually used anywhere that there's going to be a problem. They're usually up in my hammock, or in the rare cases where I'm hiking somewhere where we're not allowed to use hammocks, it'd be in a shelter. So just things to think about with that. So just real quick, I want to talk about the snaps that make up the footbox and the one that closes around your neck. So I have seen some other quilts where they've got some metal ones that are either sewn on or glued on, and they don't necessarily stay all that well. So what I like about these ones is they, first of all, on a straight pull, so if you're in there and you're moving around, they're not going to come undone. But if you grab them and you just slightly put an angle on there and a little bit of a torque, they come open really well. But they do retain extremely well. I'm pulling pretty hard there, but when you're in there, I haven't had any of them come loose yet. But you can get them off really easy. And it doesn't feel like when you're pulling on them that it's stressing the fabric at all, which is something that I always worry about when they're part of the fabric. And then the cinch on the end works really easily. Now, like all of them, when you use a drawstring close on the bottom. You are going to have a little bit of a hole here. So one way people get around that is they put a sock in there and then cinch it down, and so the sock then blocks that. You know, you could use a shirt, you could stuff something down in the end of your bag, of your quilt. But you know, this creates a nice big footbox area. It's really fluffy, a lot of loft in here, and it really feels nice. So I like it. Now, had I ordered this myself, I probably would have opted for at least the sewn footbox. Now, you know, when you're talking about a cold weather bag, I like to have the end sewn up. Now, for a summer weight one, I like to have it open, or have this option with the snap and drawstring, so that you can vent the foot, or just use it as kind of like a little quilt, a blanket just laid over you where you can keep your feet out. And now that I've got the chameleon, in the summer that makes a little bit more sense for me, because before, with the half wit, I was only covered torso with the bug netting. But with the bug netting that's zippable on the chameleon, I can now have my feet covered, and so I can vent the bottom and have a leg sticking out without having to worry about any bugs getting me. But like I was saying, for a winter bag, I would rather have a sewn footbox, because I'm not going to be opening it up and venting it very much. Okay, so the Loco Libre Gear Ghost Pepper 20 degree top quilt. What are my thoughts on it? Well, you just heard a lot of my thoughts on it, and I think that it's a good quality piece that I'm going to find a lot of use for. Now, I've already said that I was impressed with it enough that I ordered a new one. I ordered a 50 degree summer weight one that's going to be around the 11 ounce range. So a nice, very lightweight, full coverage quilt for summer. There are other options out there, and I invite you guys to look around and see what's available and try things out. You know, this one is one that I won, and it actually happens to be from a company that I had been looking at getting something from, so I was happy to do that. Now, there are other options out there, very similar, very, you know, comparable stuff out there. The difference, I think, with George and Loco Libre to this point is that he's been thinking outside of the box, trying to come up with something new, and really putting a lot on the line for himself and his company to bring new things to the market. Things that people thought couldn't be done and thought shouldn't be done, but then when they hit the market, people have found that they have a benefit and people are liking them, and he's really gaining a loyal following behind Loco Libre gear at this point. So I invite you guys out there, take a look at it, check out this review, check out my other reviews. There will be more coming. I've got stuff coming from several other vendors. I've got Underground Quilts. I'll have one of their tarps very soon. And so there's going to be a lot more reviews. I'll be taking a lot of this stuff out on the trail with me. I'm hoping for a 2-night trip next weekend. I'm out of town all week, but come back next weekend and hopefully get at least one of my boys out on the trail with me, and I think we'll be meeting up with some other people. And it'll be a good chance to trail test some of the gear that I've been talking about, including this quilt. So guys, I appreciate you tuning in, and as always, get out there and do it. If you haven't yet, please help me out by clicking on the subscribe button. It'll be down below. I've also got one over here, I believe. So just help me out. We will have another giveaway coming up for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway, because we're getting really close. It's been growing at a good rate, and so I appreciate all the support, all the feedback, comments that you guys have been giving. Keep them coming, and I'll see you guys down the trail. Thanks.